One more Thursday. Hi, Yvonne.
Hi, Evie. Yep, Thursday again, another Groundhog Week. We're back. We are back with permission to thrive. And as always, a pleasure to be here. Welcome and thank you to anyone who's watching live, anybody who watches on replay. We appreciate you taking the time to do so. Evie, where are we this week? What's happening?
Well, we are talking about, like the habit that we have to leave ourselves behind or leave ourselves last. There is this notion that, okay, everything else has to be looked after before we start looking after ourselves. And the the oxymoron when it comes to that is that we are really leaving a lot on the table when that happens, because um, we cannot really give as much as we could be able to give if we had looked after ourselves first. So, yeah, this is the self-abandonment habit. And the first limiting phrase we are myth busting today is that I'll deal with myself later. What even that means, I have no idea. how, how has this showed up for you or your clients, Yvonne?
Yeah, I mean, I that may not be the phrase that I personally would use, but same, different words, same meaning. The amount of times I have abandoned myself because other things seemed more urgent, more pressing, uh, must do, must do. And I think for me, it probably came up through my avoider. So
Mm-hmm.
through that saboteur, when that was really high for me, that would definitely be a way of just not dealing with what needed to be dealt with for myself. So just to find a million other things that looked more important, sounded more important, felt more important, go do that instead. And where I feel that that's really where I can really see how that played out for me was in relationships more than any other place, where it was easier to distract myself with something else and actually think, what do I truly need from this relationship? And have that conversation. So instead of having that conversation and really being open, I would just go off and find other things to do. That was just a really easy thing to do. But here's the thing, every time I did it, I was pushing myself further down my list. Every time I did it, it was creating more distance in the relationship. Every time I did it, I was disconnecting from myself, from who I am and what I truly wanted and who I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up. So yeah, I've definitely experienced it. Probably multiple times, and probably most recently, although this was not, when I say it wasn't intentional, I'm not saying that those things were intentional, but this was a little bit about this whole thing with my healing with this injury or this, call it an injury that I've had with my leg that has been healing, and I have been paying attention and I have been doing a lot of things, but it was almost like having to upgrade what I thought I needed to what I really needed for it to get sorted. Um, and I've got there finally. And not that I feel I was looking for shortcuts, but I seemed to go a really long way to get to where I really needed to get to. Um, but I do feel we live in this state of urgency so much, and the urgency is always for what's going on out there, not for what's happening in here. That for me is the bottom line. Is like, why do we think or feel that this is okay to neglect whilst we're ticking everything else out there? And I know we say that most of these messages come from our childhood and all of that thing, and I'm sure there are many things that I saw or heard that played into that. But this happens to so many people, and I'm not even going to say just women, but
No.
predominantly women.
Yeah.
So it's just like, and we've had different lives. So why has this message continued to be so dominant for us?
It is a good question, and I mean, hearing you with regards to relationships, and I can see that happening in my reality as well, in my life, over different years and different types of relationships as
Yeah.
well. They don't necessarily have to be, like with my partners, but the thing is that we just think that it is okay. I think it is because of the beginning of the relationships. Like in the beginning, everything seems to, be more important to be done for the other person or to show up in a specific way, which I don't agree, but it seems like this has been like the thing that you're pulled to do because of whatever reasons. And it is very hard to break the habit as the relationship progresses, and especially when it is a long-term relationship, then as you said, the distance becomes bigger, and that's why we have so many also relations that break down eventually, because like it's not necessarily a problem that one of the partners brought to the relationship. It's just
Indeed.
because we don't look after ourselves enough to be able to show up within the relationship in the way that we want and that is going to serve the other person as well. So why does it have to be just the one person needs to be looked after and not a win-win situation, right?
Mm.
And also the what you mentioned about being able to articulate what it is that we need, and without feeling that, oh, if I guess I need that, but like if I say it, it's going to be like I'm only looking after myself, and it's going to be like I'm not really paying attention to what they want, and why does it have to be that? Again, we start having these inner dialogues that have absolutely nothing to do with reality, and we're taken away of things that potentially could have worked out very well for us, for our partners, for our friends, for our family, right? So to me, that like it's more the pleaser that is playing up there, and it hasn't served me well. Definitely not. And it's like when you come out of the situation, I have found myself in this maybe one or two times in my life that um, you know I realized well after the fact that it was me that was the problem. And I'm saying it now like very boldly, and yeah, I'm the problem. No, it's not really that, but it is that I could have handled it much better if I was resourced, if I was looking out for what exactly it was that my myself needed in order to show
Yes.
up the right way within the relationship.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, and
that's
I
my
really hear that, and it's interesting as you're talking. So I'm just what's coming up for me, and you're saying like that pleaser, which I think absolutely. And gosh, as a younger woman, yeah,
yeah,
there was definitely. Uh, if I had done the positive intelligence assessment like in my 20s or 30s, I'm sure my pleaser would have been off the scale. It would have
yeah,
been pretty scary, probably. So it's about and being able to recognize it and hold that. And it's great when when you say when I could have done things differently and I was the problem. You're never a problem, and we are not problems.
yeah.
What it is that we haven't been true to ourselves in the
Yes,
moments when we needed to be. And that's how we shrink. We stop being our full selves. We start worrying about the discomfort of everybody else before we worry about the discomfort we're already in. And that then becomes an issue. And the other thing that came to me as you were speaking was, yeah, I can see how all of that feeds back into that underlying worth. There is something there about the worth and the value, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. So in those moments of not feeling worthy enough, gosh, if I say that, that's going to make it really uncomfortable, then we're probably not going to end up being a couple type stuff, all of those types of things. That's the worst thing. Like, if I'm worthy of this, I'll say what I mean. If the relationship ends, well then it was meant
Yeah, it
to
wasn't
end.
worth the
It was
relation.
gonna end at some point, right? That was, which, as you were speaking, all of that was just kind of surfacing. I was like, yeah, this is the whole thing. This comes back down to that fundamental. I I have to prove my worth. I have to earn my worth. I have to be seen as valued. Otherwise, I'm not. And if I invest time in myself, if I put my needs first, why would anyone want to tolerate that?
Ooh,
Literally. Why would
that is,
someone?
yeah, tolerate.
Yeah,
I know. And you know how often that's a heavy word. And why would we ever consider that, oh, why would someone tolerate me? That's very, very
yeah.
heavy.
And that's what I mean is when you dig down under all of that, under all of many of these phrases there is a worth value thing underlying, I think, all of it
Mm-hmm.
in particular situations and with particular people. These are the things that come up for us. And, you know, the thought of postponing my needs now is just like, that's never going to happen. I meet my needs, even if I meet them not fully, like I was talking about, like having these treatments I'm having at the moment, even if I haven't gone to the right base straight away, I have started along the line and then I'm figuring things out, which is all about me tuning in and recognizing, no, there's something else. That for me is completely different because once upon a time I would have just overridden the whole lot and just been, I just need to be present for ABC people
No,
and
for
do
sure.
that.
And we know when we postpone things, more likely or most likely, they are postponed indefinitely, right? They are, like we tend to do that. I know I do it quite often. So why not think that if we postpone something for ourselves, it is going to get to that list of being postponed indefinitely?
Yeah,
And why would we want to do that if we know that it's going to deplete us, if we know that it's not going to serve us? But also, you know, something else that sort of like comes through when I'm going back and
mm,
analyzing this for myself and the patterns and stuff, it is also a very good excuse, you see, when you are um, postponing things for yourself, when you are putting everybody else's well-being ahead of yours, and your needs and wants are in the back burner. It is a very good excuse for you to feel that you are not um, seen, or you're not doing the things that you want to do because you have to do all these other things
everything.
for others. So
Yeah.
again, and I have seen it for myself. I'm not talking about other people or my clients. I'm talking about
Mm,
me. Like for things that we do in our business, in
yeah.
whatever. How often um, I have not really done things that I had said I would do for my work, for
Yeah.
whatever, because I had to do something with, could actually wait for another day, another week. That didn't matter. It wouldn't change anything in the quality of my life or the quality of the life of anyone around me. But no, I used it as a good excuse to procrastinate. So that's, again, it's a different type of
Absolutely.
um, way
Absolutely.
that it shows up.
Yeah. And that speaks also into, when there's something that we want to do for ourselves. And perhaps it feels really big or it feels really unusual because nobody else is really doing it. We do that avoidance, the procrastinating, and that's fear. It's like
Yes,
now,
exactly.
we're fearful of wanting those things. Who am I? And all of that stuff. This is all underpinning this language that we are using. And I think what we need to take away from this particular phrase, this, I'll deal with myself later. Like, what does later even mean, for one?
Yes.
How do you know there is a later? Because none of us do. And who is benefiting from the later? Because even if you're thinking, well, the other person who I'm serving or who I'm doing something from, they're benefiting because they're getting me now, but they're not getting the best of you now.
Hmm.
Why? Because you haven't done you first.
Yep. Yep. That's it. That's it. 100%. And I think that this is the thing. Like fear is a very, very strong thing that drives us, isn't it? Like I can really see fear in a lot of this like phrases that we are myth
Mm,
busting, and also like handing over because of fear our own powers, and like giving responsibility somewhere else. And you did mention earlier on that we're looking around our body, outside our body, for all the reasons and the whys and all these things, and we don't take enough time to uh, look inside and see how we can, like, not only change but like discover more of what it is that we want, and the whys behind those, to make us um, be like lighter in a way, um, and lighter for not only for us but like the people around us. And I'm using the word lighter because like all this fear, all this like unworthiness, all these things are all very heavy emotion,
mm,
and they do show up in a very strange way. You can feel the energy of people that
yeah.
are in that level, and we know it, that we are energy, and we know it, that we can elevate our energy if only we pay attention. But we don't. We are like very much sucked in from what's going on around us and not in us.
And we've learned to override
Yeah.
what is true to us. We have literally educated our bodies to just override. That doesn't mean saying that the body's okay with it, because it's not, and eventually it will show up. But in the moment, we override and we override because it's more important, because it needs to be done, because it's urgent, because somebody else, blah, 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 until eventually our body will just say, I'm kind of done with this. And this is like almost like the end result of all of these things, is that at some point we just have a shutdown. It's like, no, this is not okay. This is not sustainable. This isn't the life that I want. All of this stuff comes up, and it goes back to, well, what are the things that I have allowed to take over my life? What are the messages that I have just been sucked into, or I've had them drilled into me, or I've picked them up along the way and I've just gone with them because everybody else is doing it? What are they? And now how do I lay them down? Because you know what? They're not serving me, and they're not really serving the people around me. Because
Yeah.
no one will ever truly get the very best of you if you're at half mast.
No,
How is that
absolutely.
possible? So I think, if you've heard yourself saying things like, I'll deal with myself later, I'll leave, I can do me later, and that could be later on in life, later on, whatever. I want to encourage you to think about attending to what you need now in real time. When you need it, deal with it, because that signal is coming for a reason. And if you take that signal seriously and you do something about it, I would put money on it. I would guarantee that you will have the resource, the inner resource, to do whatever needs to be done outside of yourself.
Mm. I mean, I read an article like earlier today, actually, that was talking about why people wait until, they get the burnout before they actually do something about it. And, this is exactly it. If you think about it, it's that we're letting things like putting ourselves in the back burner for such a long time. And there comes a time when, it translates like, oh, they had a midlife crisis. What is a midlife crisis? Um, it is that you are realizing that, okay, where do I sit in this? Where am I in my own life? And it is a big question to ask.
Yeah.
And it's not just for women, it is for men, it is for anyone, because
Yes.
at the end of the day, unless we look after ourselves, and I'm not talking about, yeah, okay, it's important what we eat, if we exercise, all these things, but like here is really important too. And we need to give space to ourselves, right? To hear, to listen, to understand what's going on between our ears, and to pay attention. I think one of the most interesting things that like 95% of the time we are on autopilot. I mean, to me, that is mind blowing. So, okay, let's just up our game, maybe another 10%. Maybe we can be 85% autopilot.
Yes.
Give ourselves a little bit of, what ourselves need. So,
it makes a massive difference. And that's the other thing is, when we talk about changing, evolving, growing, you don't have to go 0 to 100. This is not what it's about. It's what are those incremental things that can be put in place that keep your nervous system steady, because if you try and go 0 to 100 anyway, your nervous system will probably jump out of your body because it's just not ready for that. It's all too much too soon. So,
sure.
it's just the incremental. I go on and on about micro, do micro, do micro, because that enables us to get sense, observe, notice what little difference that's made. Okay, yeah, and I still feel safe and I'm okay. What's the next little bit that I can do? That's honoring ourselves also, and that's also important. Let's move on to the second phrase, which is other things are more important, which, ouch. So now we're not even important, right?
Yeah,
Other
absolutely.
things are more important. And now this is a phrase I haven't used, but I've heard it used.
Oh, I
And
heard it a lot.
I have quite often heard it used through clients, through friends, through family, and maybe I have perhaps used it. Other things are more important, and usually those other things are like my children are more important. I'm just putting that one out there because that's a really common one that I've heard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can view them as, of course, they're important, 100%. If they are more important, then you have already rationalized why you don't need anything, why your needs no longer matter because they're more important. In that state of importance that you're giving them, what happens when you're not able to function? What happens when you have neglected yourself so much that you're out of the game? Now what? Now what happens to the most important people who you have elevated to that status without considering that you need to be up there too?
Well, I'm using that quite a lot in when I'm working with my clients, because to me, usually for women that they have kids or they have like daughters, even more important in a way. Okay, not more important. It is important either way. uh, like my question is, okay, yes, of course your kids are very important. How important is it to you that you become a role model for them? And then that shifts the discussion, And it sort of usually lights a big bulb in their heads, because they realize that it's not, if I really care about someone, I need to be 100% there for them. And I have a very good friend that many years ago said to me, she's a bit older than me, and said to me, Evie, you're your first child. And that is amazing, because you need to look after yourself. You were given that little person, or big person rather, to look after. And you need to look after that person very well, so you can show up for whoever else is important to you in your 100%. There is no excuses there. And the moment, as a mom, if you want to really show up 100%, you need to look up. There is nothing else. There can't be anything else.
Yeah.
So
I love that. The whole role model thing just dropped
absolutely.
in my lap as soon as you said it, because what are we showing
Mm-hmm.
the next generation to be like? I have a son, my son's in his 30s. He's a good young man, a good human being, and that's not courtesy of me. He's been blessed to have lots of really good people in his life. But that ability and that desire to role model, like whether but daughter or son, I mean, whatever
Yeah, it doesn't
gender
matter really.
your
Yeah.
child is, that ability to show up for them and show them that you matter too. Your mattering isn't about how many things I'm running around doing for you. You matter is me demonstrating how important it is for you to take time for yourself and
Oh
for
yeah.
you to speak your truth and for you to not put up with the things that do not sit well with you. That's a responsibility. That's what we need to be modeling. And quite often we don't, because instead of that, it's the societal pressures to make sure they've got the best phone, make sure they've got the best trainers, take them to every single club that's ever been invented, da 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 da. And I'm not saying any of those things, they're not bad things. But fundamentally, as human beings, they are not the priorities that we need to be focusing on.
And I mean, I'm sure like everybody understands and knows, children model. They don't do what you tell them. They don't. But
Tell
they
me
will
about it.
do what you're doing. That's for sure. They're little parrots. I mean, up to a certain age, maybe 6, 7 years old, they are absolutely mimicking and learning every single thing that you are doing.
Mm,
And so if you're not modeling like what you want for
yeah,
them, and for them to be wonderful human beings, for them to be like whole human beings, for them to look after themselves, to care about who they are, and their environment, and all these other things that we
yeah,
all want for our young people in our lives. Well, then if you don't model that, then don't expect that later
yeah,
on in their life.
indeed.
So
Indeed.
yeah.
Yeah, and it is so much of that, that template that you lay down for them. Knowing what we know now, because, generations, things have changed. Knowing what we know now, knowing the information that we have access to, we can do better. It's like we have the button. We can do better. And we can say, instead of me running around doing a million things for you, tidying your bed when you've got two hands and you are very capable of doing that yourself, I'm going to show you what it's like to sit down and just grab a drink and just kick back and listen to the bird song, or just allow your mind to go, because that is taking care of you so that you can go and do other things that you need to do. Let me show you what that looks like, because
Mhm.
that's important. And for me also, the whole thing with self-care, when we talk about it, it's not just about teaching ourselves how to look after ourselves, it's about teaching ourselves how to look after everything else. So the environment around us, the people around us, you know, that we are more aware when we are in the company of people who perhaps aren't giving themselves what they need, and we can have a conversation with them, and we can share something with them that may help them to shift. But if we're all stuck in the same rut and we're not doing those things and we're not taking that care and we are abandoning ourselves, then we're just putting more of that out there. We just put more of that out there.
And the funny thing is that at the back of that is like us feeling sorry about ourselves, because it is a victim attitude. It is like we are giving away our own power, and we are feeling sorry for ourselves whenever we do.
Mm,
And that's not a good look
yeah,
for anyone. And first and foremost for ourselves. So
indeed.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it is something to look out for.
And I think for me that, with this kind of phrase, other things are more important. And you may have told yourself it once, twice, maybe many, many, many times, is to challenge that with, this week I'm going to schedule one non-negotiable self-appointment. I have always said that when you book something into your diary that is about you and for you, treat it like your doctor's appointment, your dentist appointment, and any other appointment which you absolutely know that you're going to show up for, whether you want to or not, you're going to go and show up for it. Do the same. Do this time. Start educating yourself, mind, body, and soul, on how important it is to do that and what you get from it and how energized you feel from doing it, which enables you to go off and do that other stuff that needs your attention, but with energy, with a
Yeah.
sense of joy, with a bit of vitality, right? As opposed to dragging yourself, thinking, oh my gosh, is this my life? Because people
Mm,
do.
they do. They do. And it's a shame. Um, it's a shame. And it's a shame because there are other ways, there are choices.
Yeah.
So next time you feel that you don't have enough time, yeah, what Yvonne said is brilliant. Just block 1 hour for yourself a week. You don't need to do more. Do 2 half-hour sessions. That's it. Whatever, even 5 minutes will do to start with. Just showing up for you.
Yeah.
Just you,
Start
nobody
micro.
else. Yeah,
Start
exactly.
micro.
And see
Because if you're not
what
doing
that feels like.
anything at the moment, 5 minutes is five
Yeah,
minutes, right?
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
Start where you are with what you have and do it without any sense of guilt, any sense of I should be doing this other thing. You know, everything else is still going to be there. So fill your cup up first. When I used to work for BA, and we always used to use that, put your mask on first. And it was a question that always used to come up, well, why would I do that when my children, I'd put my children on first. I said, okay, so now your children survive and you don't. Who's looking after your children? Simple. Bang. And it'd be like, oh, I get it. Same thing applies.
Yep.
Same rule applies. Be here for them for the long term. And that requires you to put yourself up your list.
Oh, I love that. Let's finish with that. Put yourself up your list. That is
Yes.
important. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I think as always, any comments, any thoughts, please, post them beneath the video. We always want to hear from you. We love to hear your experiences, your thoughts. And yeah, this is how we get to grow. This is how we get to be more aware. This is how we start to notice, that phrase didn't really hit me, but that one did. Or somebody else may post something else, and well, now I get that. Yeah, listen out for those voices. Start to notice them. And you don't have to do anything about them or with them right away. Just notice. But
Yeah.
you cannot notice if you don't slow down. You cannot notice if you don't pause. You cannot notice if you keep on running off to do 2 million things for 2 million other people. Really hard.
Mm, absolutely. As always, Yvonne, thank you so much for this time. And I just want to say that this is important for us as well. We are learning so much every time we speak. And
Absolutely.
I cherish this. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Abby.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.